Good evening, everyone. Switched up here, and as always, it's middle of the week, and it's Christmas for me. And I just wanted to do a short stream today, and just being able to relax and just to see how many people will be able to join in or something, or at least for my friends, or if anyone wants to talk to me, I'm all here. Just, anyways, Christmas has always been a lot of fun for me since growing up. Whenever Christmas, all the fun stuff like opening gifts. Who doesn't know? Who doesn't love to be opening gifts with excitement, with the surprise, and even curious what the parents have got for you or anything like it? I mean, when I was a kid, I always wanted to have some Star Wars related items. Like, I always wanted to have an X-Wing as a toy as a kid. Unfortunately, my parents never even got me any of one of those since at the time they were just a bit expensive, and well, eventually I just give up on to find one. But I like, hey, I can even buy one by myself right now if I wanted it. Well, that depends if I want like a brand new one or if I want a vintage. Who knows? But I eventually was able to buy my own Star Wars ship, and a N1 Starfighter, or even the Naboo Starfighter, the same one that Anakin fought in during the Battle of about Naboo. I still have it somewhere packed down in a box or somewhere, but it's one of the best ships I ever had. It's literally the only big Star Wars ship that I have. I wondered too many years why my parents never even got me one, even though I asked for one. But well, unfortunately, like I said, it was a bit expensive, and yeah, it was just about that. But Christmas itself, to me, while growing up, was always fun, especially when I was a kid. Just be outside in playing the snow, build a snowman or a snowball fight, or even slide down the hill. Anything that's related to snow that you can do, even build a snow cave or anything, it was always fun. I really very much enjoyed the winter. I still do enjoy the winter even now, but the only sad thing about when Christmas for me, it's not really much any snow on the ground outside at all. I mean, there is no snow where in the small town where I live. There no snow anywhere. Not even single inch of snow. It is quite disappointing actually, because people, when they're thinking of December, winter, and Christmas season, they will always be thinking, yes, snow and all the fun for that. But there are one group of people that's really the most disappointing for to be not be able to do anything Christmas related or even winter related outside. That's the kids. The kids has always been looking forward to Christmas, like to see the snow on the morning, and even their winter break. They can do ice skating, slide down the hills, or even build a snowman, or just simply a snowball fight, or even snow angels. But anything related to that, no. When it's just like green ground, like green grass everywhere, and the temperature is above zero, that's still like, what kind of fun is that for the kids who've always been so excited for Christmas when they realize there's always green ground? When I was a kid, there were a few years that we didn't have any snow, but most of the time from in the 90s, we did had plenty of snow. Not like a few inches, maybe it could have been like a feet of deep snow. But the winter itself is one of the best holiday for many. There is always that the fun of it, especially when the schools end for the winter holiday. Kids are always excited to be playing in the snow, snowball fights, snowman, anything. But when you realize the ground is barren of green grass with temperatures above zero, there's like, yeah, what kind of fun is that? I mean, the kids are always looking forward to Christmas. See the snow on the ground for the during the to open the gifts, and then have the winter break for a few weeks to have all the kinds of fun in the snow. They're like, what snow? This is something that we had caused ourselves. You know, it just I always loved the snow when I was growing up, and many of my friends do. Unfortunately, as much as we had affected the climate, some years we may actually do have plenty of snow, or at least just a little snow on the ground that's look beautiful, but then don't have any snow at all. I know that many of my friends, even from school and or from I met online, have always enjoyed the snow. There's always the fun of it. Like even see the beautiful snow hanging on the tree branches and all that. It's always beautiful. But see the ground green, no snow, no ice, it really just ruined the whole spirit of it of being Christmas. I mean, if you're watching old movies like, say, the Santa Claus or Rudolph the Reindeer or any Christmas related movies, there's always snow anywhere, anywhere. But in reality, we have been affecting the climate so much for the past, I would say, even for the past few years, not a few decades, but for the past few hundred years. And I mean, it's just how we think we be thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be affecting much. Well, but we can always hope that next year we might have some snow. In fact, even my girlfriend who lives in the US, she doesn't even have any snow at all. Oh, Malachi is here. What's up, top dude? Yeah,
Nothing
so
much.
yeah, it's just to me it's crazy that we haven't got any snow at all for this Christmas. Although I always looking forward when I we did have snow uh, by early the November December, and I always knows that we are. I mean, I always are being prepared every year. This part of the year, that even when we do get snow, I'm always prepared for the snow to be melt away, even the same day or even with the next few days. I'm always looking forward, even if it's only a few inches of snow on the ground. That's needed. That's all there is required to me, and the temperature cold enough for it to stay snow on the ground for at least for the Christmas. It just doesn't feel the same way if there's no snow anywhere. Like I mean, like when we are grandparents ourselves one day, our grandkids even ask, "What is snow?" You know, and like, how would you explain? Oh, that's the white stuff that falls from the sky. And I mean, in a way, it snows all year round. I mean, after all, snow is frozen rain, so you can say it snows all year round. But yeah, it's just not something I really expected to be happening, though. Honestly, um, you haven't even got any snow or anything, have you?
It's mostly green around here too.
Wow,
I guess
not
Mother
just me.
Nature's snow machine broke down.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Um, I did mention that the Santa Claus movie. Have you seen one of those with Tim Allen?
Mm, honestly, I'm not sure.
They actually made a show on that one, uh, 2022 to 2023, but that was about a year long. I mean, it's I haven't seen it myself. Um, yeah, it's a pretty fun movie though. Yeah, so Christmas now is over, officially over for me, since I pretty much get what I wanted. I did get some candy, some gifts from my parents, my brother, and for Fi Goddess, and I mean it's pretty fun though. Even the gifts that I got from Fi Goddess were supposedly for my birthday, but they arrived even sometime in November. So like I was like I told my dad about, you can wrap them in and keep them as Christmas gifts. I mean, my birthday was almost a month away past that, so even though I could during that, but there were there was no some of the gifts that she gave me was not even candy or anything, so that's a good bonus. But I don't mind. I really don't mind as much as some gifts from her, even if they're so small ones or anything. So but yeah, um, I expect that you guys might actually enjoy some of the Christmas gift stories that I've done for the past week or so.
Mm,
Those 14. Oh
yeah.
boy. I mean, I worked my butt off on that. The fact I wasn't expecting it to be do that many. I know that you did tell me some ideas, but you had since you said you were planning to be designing for stories and for who it's going to be for. I remember that, but I don't remember if I still had the list from the stories at the end. And since November was getting closer and closer to December, I was like, I had to decide from which stories to who which people that's going to be for. I mean, I could always try to ask you again about it, but yeah, it wasn't really much worth
I
it.
mean, I would have obliged to look back.
Yeah, but I believe you did tell me that on StreamYard a while back in a private chat or something. And as you know, StreamYard's private chat is uh, pretty much being cleaned from after the stream is over. And if even if someone's come back here, even if just for a moment, it will be gone. And sometimes I don't saving it as much as that of course it depends on what it is about. So, but yeah, 14 stories. I worked my butt off, and I seriously say that I'm not going to make any more of those type of stories. And I mean that not that amount of stories, and uh, you know, at the same time
I mean,
again,
it would be nice if you actually you could, but I think it would have to be when you start making. But I think from now on, you might want to start making them around November beginning.
yeah, that was originally planned to do, but I it slipped my mind. But I mean, it is a bit really good reason for that. Everything that I mean, even though you even like say if I'm planning to do 10, 12 stores or even 14, and it's suddenly and I was like, oh yeah, I was gonna start working on them, and something else happens, like work and bowling and other things that happens in every day in between those times. And even though I do remember, yeah, even though at the time I hadn't even decided exactly which stores to do, but I was planning to do some of the stores multiple pictures, but since I was in the early December when I started making this Christmas store skits, I was like, you know what? I skipping to do multiple picture stores, but just using one picture, and that's as much as I can do. I like the first time I made my Christmas stories for you guys. That was like a few years ago now. The first one was like 15 stories, and they were no, actually they were only like 12, I believe. They were posted from the 1st all the way to 12th. And the year after, I was planning to do it again, but since I unfortunately started doing my stories even a bit later than usual, like I think it was around the 2nd or maybe 3rd of December of that year. So I was like, no, I decided to make the stories anyways, but upload all of them on Christmas Day. And even if you had asked me to do, say, 16 or perhaps even 18 stories, I couldn't even upload them at all at once. I had to do that in 2 separate turns. There is a limit on how many videos you can upload on YouTube at once, which is 15. And so for next year, when I'm going to do those Christmas gift stories, they might only be like 10 or 12. Right now it's not really it's decided yet, which well, it's not decided exactly to uh, how many there will be. I mean, that also the more like it still gives me a lot of time up to next year for which story to decide and for which people it's going to be for. And since Cody Darkhog is no longer around, I know he will love this story. Um, the fact is, I may not even do another memory story for Cody next year or something. I mean, I just don't know at this moment. I mean, if every one of my friends actually suggested to be a given, if I like, if every one of my subscribers ask for stories for Christmas, I'm like, that is impossible for me. If I had to do Christmas stories for every one of my subscribers for that particular year, that would be insane and almost impossible. Then if I had to start already in the middle of summer, to do so. But considering I have 9,370 plus subscribers. So if I had to do subscribers for every single one, that also will take, if I have to upload, say, if I have to upload 9,500 videos in just one day, and I can only upload 15 store videos per time, and that will take me hours. And I might even take days for even all that to just once. I mean, if I managed even to do that, I would like, if I even managed to get even 9,000 videos in one uploaded at one day, I'd be like, now I don't even have to be doing any more stories for the rest of the year or maybe for the next 2 years. Because if I upload 9,000 videos stories on my channel, I mean, come on. Do you think I even need to upload any more stories for the next few years? I doubt it. But realistically, I wouldn't even do 9,000 stories even for a whole year for just for Christmas. It literally, I mean, if I had to do some tons of stories, even for, let's say, if I would do 10 or perhaps even 15 stories per day, that's insane. I mean, I did
Mm,
one. There was actually just one time I did
I
made
mean,
10 audio stories. I
I
mean,
mean,
10
if
audio.
15, if 15 is the max limit, I could just give you a whole 15 every year.
Well, that, I mean, sure, but the fact is, even though, but if I made, say, yeah, but that was what I was referring not to, though. But I was talking about if I make 15 stores per day, even during the whole
Mm,
year, not for Christmas. That itself,
uh,
like, that would have been a little bit too much. I mean, I had to be working my butt off in order to like 15 audio, maybe text, music slash audio stores in one
hmm.
day. If I had to do okay, if I do 15 audio stores in just one day, oh, that reminds me. If I do 15 audio stories per day for like a whole week, that will make it 105 stories. And if I did that, I'll tell you, I may lose my voice not just for a few days, maybe a week or more. I really can't do that. I really can. I can't do it. 10 order stories was probably much of the limits I done before. That happened once. If I do order stories for a day, maybe 3 or 4 at most, but 10 or more than that, no way. There's no way I do that ever again. If anyone told me, just
Mm,
do it or make 20 art stories per day, like making story after story, like 20 stories in a row,
they lost their mind.
exactly, because I could not even do that. I mean, I can, but I wouldn't even do that many because my voice, my throat will be hurting, painful. And like if someone like require me to do that every single day for a whole year, I'm like, that means like 15 art stories for 365 days. That will make it 5,475 stories. If I did that, my voice would probably either temporarily or even permanently lost. Seriously, people, that's I would not even do that. I mean, if I did 5 auto stories per day for a whole year, whoops, that would be about 1,821, 25 stories. So 1,825.
Damn.
Still, but 5, or if I did 2 auto stories per day for a whole year, that gives me 730 stories. And I mean, 2 auto stories per day, it's something I probably could survive with. But if I ain't been pushed my much limit, I mean, think about this. If I really had, if I had even made all the Christmas stores today beforehand, if I was like, oh, screw me, I forget to making this all the 14, 15 stores today. So I would have to like when I get home from my parents to celebrate Christmas on the same day, and I had to record 15 other stories if I wanted to make as much. And even though I know for a fact my voice, my throat will be killing me the day after, but I'm like, it might be worth it. But I would never even do it. I wouldn't. I mean, if I was to say do 15 auto stories, no, it might be too much. I did ones with 10 stores. That's a very limit that I can even handle. I just don't want to get my. I don't want to have a sore throat the day after, almost losing my voice because of that. I was even considering to
Mm.
do some of this. I was even considered some of these stories to be as audio. Well, depending on what some of them would be. Okay, Game Guy sent me something on Discord. Let's see what it said. He was just asking if I would, if he want me, if he wants me to bring back Kubo back to the big DM. Yeah, I said sure. I mean, if we have to, yeah, move past what would happen and such. Oh, um, what I told you guys on the Discord just before when I go back home, about Trump's new ships. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, no.
I mean, I do understand if he commissioned to construct a new battleship. In fact, there hasn't even been any new battleship cruise class since since the Iowa battle class of battleship was back in 1992. There were actually plans for there haven't been new plans for the cancellation of the Montana class back in 1943. So I was like, I wasn't even aware of this class until I mean, when I was at my parents' house, my brother brought it up a topic, and I was like, "What? What?" And in fact, Trump actually has all legal right to name a battle cruiser or even an aircraft carrier by Trump class. There is no like anything that makes him prevent that. Because I found that on that same page on Wikipedia. It says here from the Center of Strategic and International Studies that nothing prevents a president from using the term. However, it's usually reserved for historical type and a big guns, heavy armor. The ship would be neither. It guns is likely to be standard 5-inch or 55 pounds in weight, rather from a battleship 16 inches, where a project does projectiles which weigh 2,000 pounds. And even though this name would be a challenge to the United States Ship Naming Convention of naming aircraft carriers after presidents and battleships after states. So apparently, only the battleships are named after a state, and aircraft carrier are from the president. I mean, when I heard that Trump announced his new battleship, um, and when I heard my brother told me about it, I was like, "There, what? Seriously?" And when I get home, I looked it up, and sure enough, he's literally had announced two ships are being development or at least be constructed. One is being called USS Defiant, and Defiant is the name of the battleship. Okay, I mean that is not like a bad name for a ship because in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, that main ship is known as USS Defiant. So I don't see that much. So if Trump announced a new battleship is going to be constructed, okay, I was like, I mean, I don't see no problem in order to do so. I mean, figure out many of the current battleships in that U.S. Navy has in their possession would it eventually have to be retired, and even those aircraft carriers with nuclear power when they're expecting to be refueling their supply for nuclear fuel, you may be thinking that will be done in like in a few days. No, that can take months, perhaps even more than a year, in order that to be complete. I mean, it's nuclear energy reactor. If it was diesel or gasoline or something like that, okay, that may have been taking maybe a few weeks, but depending on the size. And to have Trump to announcing a new battleship class, okay, I mean, I don't see no problem in that. I mean, many Americans don't see that as much a problem at all. I mean, there's no issue because it's really not like I said. Many current battleships in the U.S. Navy are eventually have to be retired. And if every single of the battleships were to retire, which other ships had been depending on being the ones that have been defending the USS borders from outside threats? I mean, if every single battleship cruisers or battleships, every and even every single aircraft carrier would have been retired and scrapped, and that leaves only like some cruisers and even destroyers. And the Navy's number of destroyers may not even be that many. And then there's like, and Trump will say, well, U.S. is very much can be handle any outside threat, even just with our current destroyers and our cruisers. I'm like, whoa, 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 back up, Trump. That is not possible, because if you have say 15 destroyers, 10 cruisers, and they're scattered in all different places. And those ships aren't even the same armor enough. I mean, they don't even have the same type of weapons as the aircraft carrier or even a battleship has. I mean, let's say if Russia would send one of their own aircraft carriers or even battleship against a US destroyer. Do you think a destroyer would even have a stand, even a chance against an aircraft carrier? Absolutely not at all. I mean, it's literally impossible for even a destroyer against an aircraft carrier. So eventually, that US needs some new battleships, which Trump had announced only a few days ago, and there's going to be a new battleship. Even though there are two of them, as if I understood, is under construction, but they only cost 10 to 15 billion for per boat for ships. That's a huge amount. And since Trump had announced that they were going to build at least 10, with potential with total of 25. So if he were to build every single 25 those battleships right now, it would cost the US 375 billion. And that is huge amount. But even if he would have put all the construction for all 25 right now, it may still take many years before those ships would even be completed. And it's understandable that Trump wants to increase the Navy's power, the strength for to be securing the border of the country. And it makes sense. I mean, I don't see Trump has no much against that idea to be putting a new battleship in a commission. I mean, eventually, though, the current battleships and even the current aircraft carriers are needed to be eventually decommissioned or put for scrapped. I mean, think about it. When the aircraft carriers, the ones who is nuclear power, when they are you need to be refueled, they need sometimes months, perhaps even more than a year in a shipyard, in a dry dock. So if let's say every
Mm.
single aircraft carrier is, I mean, if every single aircraft carrier in the U.S. Navy is put in for refueling, that leaves most of the majority of the defenses. So U.S. had been heavily dependent on the battleships, since battleships aren't even nuclear power. I mean,
Mhm.
that is really much the very much crucial because, like the new current Gerald Ford aircraft carrier is also being in development, and that's actually kind of cool. I mean, the U.S. Navy or any country's navy needs sometimes to scrap their ships and build new ones because some ships can have been in service for more than 20 years and perhaps even as 30 years. And sometimes, and even a US aircraft carrier's lifespan, I think it's about 30 to maybe 40 years. It depends if they could maintain some of the systems and such. Like like in the ship or the movie Battleship, when the current U.S. Army or U.S. Navy's ships was completely annihilated, and the fact that U.S. defended themselves with help of an old retired ship, USS Missouri, an old battleship that hasn't even been put in action since the 1940s, because that ship had been put into like a museum, and the ship was even it's like I mean that ship uh, from the movie was later based on an actual event. I mean, not for except for the aliens, but there was yeah. So if Trump wants to announcing to make this, they're planning to build a new battleship. I have no problem with that because every country needs to sometimes to retire old ships and replace with new ones.
Mhm.
It makes sense because I mean, aircraft carriers they have a lifespan of 30 to 40 years, maybe 50. It depends on what they're doing. And some of them could have been in active service for decades, and eventually they're not seen, and they're no longer. Even if the Navy wants to maintain it or you continue to use the ship, but it had already exceeded its lifespan. I mean, if it has surfaced way more than that they couldn't even handle anymore, and even some of the systems on that particular aircraft carrier may actually be outdated and such. And if they had to put it back in a dry dock to update the systems, that will take time. And and also the Navy and the U.S. government may be thinking, is it really worth to updating the systems of an aircraft carrier that had already been just past its expectancy lifespan with 30 to 40 years of service? Rather from just updating the systems, we may actually decide, no, we need to build a new aircraft carrier in order to have this old one to be retired. But even if we do update the systems on board the system, that aircraft carrier may only extend its lifespan for maybe a couple of months, maybe only a few years, until they had to be updated again. And it's not really worth. I mean, for U.S. government, they may be thinking maybe it's not really worth to update an outdated aircraft carrier if it has served for 30 to 40 years already, and it makes sense in that. And like the same thing as for like the submarines in the U.S. Navy, they have been can also been a service for years, and eventually they need also to have to be scrapped because not even a single ship can last forever. I mean, even you maintain the ship updated systems, but eventually it would have served its purpose. Like, so if when Trump announced his battleship, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, but at the same time, it's not much unlike that it had to be. Sometimes ships need to be bringing some new ones. Sometimes the old ones have served its purpose. I mean, but as it said that Trump wants to make it, uh, he is planning to have them to be built domestically by at the Hanwha Philly shipyard, which is a South Korean owned, and uh, and that he wants them uh, to serve as a Golden Fleet. When I heard that name, the Golden Fleet for Trump's new battleships, um, I don't think the Golden name is as Golden Fleet. It may not actually be a sounds good name for to some people. I mean, to me, it's a bit unusual calling it as Golden Fleet. It could have been if this had. I mean, there might even be other names like say Defense Fleet or Defiant Fleet or maybe say Tiger Fleet or Shark Fleet or something, or I mean, or even just Advanced Fleet. But at this point, but here's another thing what I also said or read that the CNN analyst Stephen Collison states that procurement of Trump class likely revived battle class and the battleship retirement debate. Some experts have commented that this type of ship is obsolete and none of this class will ever be built. So one person said that Trump's new battleship may not actually even have been built. And I don't know if those two that's supposed to be being ordered already is in construction or they're being planned to be built by as early as next year. Who knows? But having a new battleship class being added into the U.S. Navy, I mean, it's not like a bad idea. Sometimes you need to build new ships in order to replace some of the old ones. Eventually, even the old ones may not even be able to maintain. I mean, think about it. If you have, say, 100-year-old racing boat against a racing boat from today, and even the one for 100 years ago was the one that was the top fastest, what could even achieve the fastest speed, and you have one of those today can reach maybe twice, maybe three times as fast as the old one. Who is one? Which one would be better to be an option to be considered for better option? The new one, or say if you put say a Ford, a T Ford model or Ford Model T against a Ferrari. Ferrari is more modern, has much better engine, and can reach much faster compared to an old Ford. It's very much like this that comparison. I mean, that's the same thing for as the current battleship. Maybe they can't even achieve as much of speed as a Trump class one are expecting to be able to reach um, are expecting to reach about 35 miles per hour, and that's I mean let's say from the current battleships that the U.S. Navy has can only achieve a speed like say 25 or maybe just 20 miles per hour, and then we have the new one's going to reach almost double that. I think it's actually not just a bad idea for Trump announcing that they were increasing, uh, build new battleships and such. I mean, I think it's not really such a bad idea. Eventually, I mean, even when I read, this was like, I think, wasn't it Biden that actually commissioned the Gerald R. Ford class, the aircraft carrier? I believe it was Biden who actually commissioned that battleship. But here's another something. Some of the previous presidents, like Obama or
I
Biden, if you think,
don't know.
and if you think about this, some of the previous presidents, like Obama, Biden, or even Clinton, or even Nixon, they never actually commissioned a battleship or even aircraft carrier, even in their names, even when there was a president or even afterwards. That usually are, I mean, aircraft carriers are usually honored after some former president. So, like Washington, Lincoln, Kennedy, and who knows, maybe one day, not Muhammad, but Obama might actually get his own aircraft carrier one day as a class. Who knows? I mean, it's just like say, okay, not maybe it's not entirely impossible for any of this, but yeah, it's just how crazy that sounds, but it really sometimes. But it's just essentially that a country needs sometimes to update their navy, even if those ships has already served for many years. The same thing as for during World War II with the Nazis, they could have taken over Sweden easily because they outnumbered Sweden's air force. At the time of during the early of the war, the Nazis had about 150,000 airplanes, while Sweden had about 150 planes, and those planes was quite outdated. So yeah, so it eventually that like many countries, like even Air Force or even Navy or the Army, sometimes need to upgrade their systems or ships or planes or anything in the defenses. I mean, do you thinking that you can, let's say, I mean, do you expecting your country to be able to defend yourself against any enemy or any form of invasion forces with ships that's like 50 or perhaps even almost 100 years old? No, and compared to new ones that's way too powerful. No, I don't think that's not even possible. I mean, even if you would have to withdraw, even okay, even if that U.S. Navy had to take every single ship that was already been planned for the schedule to be scrapped, had to return back to active service, and even take every single ship that was already being used as a museum had also to be brought back in active service, even though that ships had even been in service for years. Think about it. So the plan that Trump wants to make with a new battleship. Okay, I don't see that much a big issue. It is sometimes needed. So yeah. And I also told um, Kuvo, since he's back in the that's DM about it, but he is unfortunately not able to join in due to his going to the barber, which I never actually been to. I never when I get the haircut, I don't even go to the hard to the barber or even hair stylist. I actually go to see my parents for that. My dad and my mom had cut my hair and my siblings' hair for most of our lives. They had this machine to do that, so it's pretty much safer, much cheaper, and also safer. And I don't say it's and even a simple haircut here can cost from between 100 to maybe 300. Oh, by Malachite. So yeah, a lot of things have been happening over the past few days and past few weeks, months, and years. Trump announcing a new battleship. That's that's quite something, though. Yeah, and yeah, that was not expected that happen. But I think Trump, even though I really very much disliked by not only by some Americans, but also most of the world don't like you. But you have a good idea on this one, though. I can't deny it, since by adding a new battleship class, it's sometimes needed for that. So I give you that. But don't get your head self for thinking I'm actually thinking you're a great president, which is far from it, though. Just saying that, Trump. But you adding a new battleship, I think adding it that US will have a new battleship class with the next few I don't know next few years. Trump class battleship. Even though Trump is a yeah, well that's a I mean it's like it's a go against him to be not even to say that prevents him from calling it Trump class. Usually battle class are usually named after a state, not a president. Though again, I wouldn't know. What happened?
Mm, connection.
Yeah, so I think when I find out that Trump making a new this battle class announcement, I don't think that's much an issue. Country needs sometimes new ships to maintain the descent safety and defenses. I think it's nearly needed for that. So, what else to talk about? Honestly,
Mm,
I had no clue. Excuse here.
yeah, I want to see where you can. I want to see what you can do with that blue nose schooner art description that I was using for those pictures that I sent you of those green sailing vessels. I haven't now shared to DM.
Uh, in private, yeah, I don't see any. Let's see now. There's another message showing up. Okay, now I see it. Yeah. So, do you have any
That's
new?
what I was using for those bluebell ships.
All right. Uh, I'll look into that after the stream, though, a little bit later. Have you have any new Super Millionaire prepared or finished up? Any one new ones that you have made?
I'm currently working on two new 60s themed ones. Um, two new 60s themed ones. I do have did have some edited questions from on several of the other quizzes. Um, I even put in a few uh Christmas special questions. I came across one that was so random, and I was like, "How can I not forget about this dog?" I loved him in my early days, and it wasn't just Clifford, the big red dog. It was a yellow animated dog named Spot.
I don't know that name.
He his mouth never opened, but you could hear a narrator talking as him.
From which show is that from?
He was a kids show character. I
Yeah, but
forgot,
from what
but
show?
I forgot. But he was a kids show character. I think from maybe around the 80s or 90s. I think it was.
That would make sense. Though I did see this clip on YouTube, I think a couple of days ago, like 1 or 2 days ago, I believe. Jake from Adventure Times somehow appeared in Gumball's world, Amazing World. I mean, Jake from Adventure Times in Gumball's Amazing World, or well, the Amazing World of Gumball.
The amazing world of Gumball.
Yeah, like he actually appeared as a cameo, and like I was like, what the? And yeah, I was like, okay, and before anyone asks, have I seen Gumball and his family from the show? I have. I hadn't even seen like every single episode of the show, but it was yeah, it was unusually not what I expected. Though did see this. There was this guy who was talking about this news um, Mickey Mouse show. He was driving, um, and suddenly his car stopped, and he needed something to. There was something about his engine that needed some repairs. Unfortunately, he didn't need or didn't had the tool that was big enough for part of that engine he needed. Then he saw one of his friends, Goofy, nearby. But here's the plot twist: he wasn't even his usual self. Goofy was pretty much dead. He was like a walking zombie with bones for arms and legs. And eventually he was approaching Mickey, and of course, anyone seeing as walking skeleton zombie or what you call it approaching you, there is only like one reaction: panic and run. Eventually, he did run away, and he saw me. Goofy's body fell off the cliff in pieces, and he's like, "Phew! I'm out of train danger." But to his misfortune, every single piece landed in exact order for the body to be rebuilt. That, and he also returned to saw Mickey by his car, and then he literally tore off one of his arms and actually about to like forward to Mickey, which he believed that he was gonna hit him with his arm, but it didn't. He didn't do that. In fact, he offered his bone arm to use as a tool, like a wrench. And afterwards, he literally allowed Goofy to sit down in a passenger seat in his car, and they just drove home or drove away. I mean, first, I understand from Mickey's reaction when he saw that Goofy as a dead, an undead zombie slash bony monster creature standing in front of him or beside his car in a desolate, dark evening place. Like it was like middle of nowhere, like almost like in a deep countryside in the late in the evening. I was like, damn, that's freaky. I mean, it's really understanding that
That
how
is
Mickey
dark.
yeah. I mean, I really understand that this Mickey saw his best friend Goofy standing there, and he was undead, like a zombie. Most of his bones and legs were just bones. And when he was approaching, first, I mean, it's normal to understand that Mickey thought that he was going to be hurt because when you hear zombies or undead, they usually will attack people, but he didn't. I mean, this after is a kid show, and he didn't do anything to harm Mickey at all, not even once. And when he saw that Mickey needed help, he was about to offer uh, his arm to use as a tool. But it's for Mickey's reaction, it's perfectly understanding. I mean, if it was me in that position, I mean, if I saw a very close friend suddenly standing there, a complete as a pile of bones, like an undead zombie, yeah, it's perfectly understanding. I would have felt the same reaction. No one would you say, "Oh, thanks, Goofy," or whatever your friend is. But when Goofy offered his bone arm to Mickey so that he could repair his engine in his car, I mean, it's clear how they are much very deep friends and all that. But I was, yeah, I was skeptical, but also I do understand Mickey's very much reaction to how things happened. It's really fair to react to that. Any of our friends, even Gaming Guy would react the same way. Kubo, even though he said that he can probably like, oh yeah, I can beat him. But the problem is about this. A zombie, okay, if there's a zombie that even you punch him in his face, nothing would even happen. Like in The Walking Dead, there is one type of zombie that literally has developed some form of like like an almost an armor, like a made of stone on his body and his face and his head, like a. I mean, the zombies from The Walking Dead were usually just normal dead people, but this one particular zombie had developed, or at least had some look like a stone armored on his body. I don't know the woman who used the katana as a weapon. She tried to cut him, but it didn't work until she was then told to try punch on the head and such, and it worked. And I know that Rick Grimes, which is the main character in the series, um, I know this, but I saw this only as a clip of it. Shortly after he left the hospital, after he woke up from the accident or whatever it's called, he actually encounters a little girl as a zombie. She couldn't not even be more than, I think, maybe between 5 or 8 years old, maybe 5 or 10. She was holding a stuffed bunny, and she was like wearing a some sort of nightgown or something, like a pajama, PJs or pajamas. I was like, this is literally horrifying. I didn't expect that they were expecting to see teenagers or maybe young adults, like even adults, but seeing an actual child as a zombie, that was way too far. I mean, I seen some of the survivors literally well, uh, was turning. They were usually preteens, like say I don't think like I think maybe 11, 13 years old or something, but a child, like a child was still in elementary age, turn into zombie. That was, yeah, that was pretty dark. Even when his own son, Carl, He was bitten by a zombie. And you know what happened? He didn't turn. He actually shot himself in his head to kill himself, preventing himself from being harmed. But it later turned out that the people in The Walking Dead, those who had survived, no matter, every survivor carried the same thing that will turn them. So even if they died the natural causes, their bodies would eventually revive themselves automatically. And there were times even people asking, where did this virus even or this outbreak started? At first, the creator won't even reveal much about it. But it later turns out that the virus that caused the zombie outbreak in The Walking Dead was actually started in a French laboratory. Apparently, it was some man-made virus, and and there was. I also sort of find out that only one European country maintained or had some form of stable government the longest, and that was the UK. And it was still some very much active government, even as much as the Sears. And I wonder though, how many other humans was left in this The Walking Dead during during after the outbreak? Well, it was like the zombies outnumbered humans like 1 to 500. But then later turned out that there was this one big city in the US in Walking Dead that literally had a population of 200,000 people. That's a little the largest population un, of survivors in Walking Dead. I was like, whoa, that's so at least that it happens that the humans have been able to survive. Even though 200,000 survivors still is a large population to maintain a stable gene pool and such. And there might even be a large population somewhere else in the world, like Africa, uh, South Pole, Asia, Europe. Even though they were only focused on certain areas that they're saying majority of the population in The Walking Dead was completely wiped out. But since they showed it was one big city with 200,000 survivors, it shows it may be possible that there might even be even large populations somewhere else in the world. Since UK is a country in Europe that has the longest still working government somehow. Think about it. And it's kind of a strange, but also at the same time it's cool. But honestly, do you think a zombie outbreak is realistically possible?
Eh, only if it's Trump that starts the war.
Oh man, yeah. If Trump starts the first nuclear world war, oh, oh man, yeah, that would have been. But I mean, personally, I don't think zombie and outbreak can actually be existed. I mean, imagine like in The Last of Us, the series and the game, it's pretty much the same thing. But there's another crazy part. Everyone who's been bitten by one of those creatures eventually return within a few days or something like that, I believe. But Ellie, a teenage girl, was actually bitten by one of those creatures 2 weeks earlier in, in the games when it starts, but she never turned. Somehow she was immune, and that is crazy. I mean, if she was able to be immune against this virus, and the fact that this virus is based on the fungi, like a mushroom kind of thing. It's literally based on a real virus. I mean, there is insects that can fungi that use insect to spread spores of it to other places. It was based from very much of that but in larger global scale that not only insects but mammals. So I was like, wow, really?
At least I know one person's not amused.
Really haven't done I haven't seen The Last of Us at all. I haven't played a game, but I know at least some of it, but that's about. And honestly, I really didn't expecting any other things. I mean, it's possible, but I don't think like a zombie outbreak is like a reality. I don't think so. Virus outbreak that could cause a major disaster, like the 12 Monkey Army or the Army of the 12 Monkeys or something, or like COVID. It literally killed thousands of people around the world. So if a pandemic that can cause an outbreak, yeah, I think that's more possible. Or as this there is actually one series that I used to be watching years ago, called The Tribe from New Zealand. It was about a virus that wiped out 100% of the entire adult population. Only teenagers and kids were still left alive, unaffected, until the virus itself mutated and started causing the kids to rapidly age and killing them. But that also I don't think is realistically possible for a virus only target the adult population. I don't think that's possible. But a virus outbreak that could cause serious problems like the COVID, but worse, yeah, it's literally possible. I mean, looking throughout history, Black Plague, simple. Spanish flu, same kind of thing. It's an outbreak that killed millions. Who knows? I mean, it's literally possible for even a small new virus can cause serious outbreak. It's that is not impossible. That hasn't happened before. It might even happen again. That's just that we don't know when or how worse it can be.
And I don't
Oh,
even
it's,
want to know.
yeah. Even though my dad has said to me, this was like early, um, like very much early 2020, 2021, I think, around 2020, um, that we should expecting another pandemic with the next 10 to 15 years, similar to this COVID. But the thing is, we don't know if the next pandemic might even be the same as much as COVID were, the same level as dangers, or even be half a danger, maybe it's only half as dangerous as COVID were, or even only be like say 10% bad as COVID, or it can even be as perhaps even twice as dangerous as COVID, or even perhaps 10 times worse than COVID. I mean, who knows if the next I mean, who knows with the next 10 to 15 years another pandemic can even happen? What if? What if the next pandemic one might even be as worse, maybe as so bad as much as be very as bad as the Black Plague at the same scale? I mean, even if the Black Plague would somehow even return now, I mean, think about it. If the Black Plague returned now, none of us would even stand a chance. Why? Simple. There is no vaccine for the Black Plague. The Black Plague hasn't even been around since um, well, at least in my country, is since seriously, come on, seriously, since I believe around I mean, the Black Plague hasn't even been in my country since nearly for almost 700 years. So if the Black Plague would somehow return even now, we would even stand a chance. Even back then, half of Europe's population died of it. Today, I may think if the Black Plague would have returned, the population just in Europe might not even be 50%. It could perhaps even be some may say might even be just 10%. But who knows? As the worst case, could it be either 90 or 95% of the population? And if that happened just in Europe, because after the Black Plague happened in Europe and during by the mid of 1300s, it took 150 years for the entire Europe's population to reach the same level of number of people as was before the Black Plague. But just imagine if that happened in Europe again, and like say if it was only like 80% of the population would have been wiped out. Just imagine same amount of percentage in the American population. So 350 million and man minus 80%. And we still have no immunity against it. I mean, what if, like, say, it's someone decide it's like saying, "Oh, the Black Plague has never returned," but it could, and we would not even be prepared. But at least we have one thing an advantage: we have advanced medical technology. I mean, back then we didn't even know anything about viruses and diseases. Everyone believed it was this punishment from God. But now we have advanced technology and we can treat and determine, we have technology that can determine what is the cause of this disease. And if they can modify an updated version of the vaccine for the Black Plague and have it fast delivered, spread out entire the world in advance before it start even reaching the most of the leaving Europe or even leaving anywhere. But the fact is, if you think about it, every single most of the major pandemics that we had experienced in the Middle Ages has always been from China. One of the staff here, little thinking, that said that the virus, that COVID, was man-made, but it was America who invented it and put the blame on China. That's what he said. Personally, I don't think that US would even go that far. And if that was being true, that US actually was put the blame, invented a pandemic, but not like the US government would even be like the one involved. The ones who would be responsible would be the medical, like the pharmaceutical pharmaceutical companies, the ones who made vaccines and antidotes and such. I think that could have been the ones that were responsible. But if that's true, why would they do it then? Profit, to earn more profit, to earn money and earn profits from all the productions of the vaccine of this particular virus. But the thing that might be a bad idea. Another reason, simple. I mean, if they had this was we know of, if a man-made virus could eventually mutate, and if it mutates, the current vaccine would not even be effective as much. They will be like completely useless. And then those companies realize they mistake and have to work on a new vaccine, like a super vaccine. But that's another problem. Who knows if that would even be much as effective? So this entire idea that US would invented the COVID and put the blame on China, I don't think that's something that they would even do. So the previous, like the first, the Black Plague was from China. That is not possible to be man-made because that was back in the Middle Age. That was like Middle Ages, and we don't even have it back then. The basic understanding of genetic engineering or anything, unless China was way more advanced than we thought of, which I doubt. Oh man, that would have been
Mm.
so. I mean, but personally, we need to always be aware of any new development of new pandemics. Even though what my dad told me, with the next 10 to 15 years, or perhaps even the next 10 to 20 years, we could expect a new pandemic. Maybe not the same as dangerous as COVID. Maybe it could be twice as bad,
Mm.
could be even 10 times as bad of the next pandemic. That we can't determine. We can't even know for sure about it. We can't even tell exactly where next pandemic is going to be released from. It can be Japan. It could be from Africa. It can even be actually even be from the US. I mean, we wouldn't even know. I'm glad that the pandemic that we experienced recently with COVID is officially over. But like I said, my dad told me that within the next 10 to 15, maybe 20 years, we may experience another pandemic, and we won't even know how bad it would be. It can be twice, 10 times as bad, or even be less than half, or maybe only not being bad as much at all. It's just we will never know what the next pandemic will happen. But I really hope that we don't even have to expecting a new pandemic for the next 10 to 20 years, but not for another 100 years. I mean, we experienced several pandemics since the bird flu, the swine flu in back in the early 2000s. Now this, the pandemic of the COVID from like 2019 to 2020s. And I really expect we wouldn't have any new pandemic for next, not even next 20 years, but for next century. And even though my dad said within the next 10 to 20 years, expect another pandemic. I mean, that's just, we don't know for sure. And who knows how far that might even be or how bad it will be. But at least one thing I say for certain, until next time, we might be even more prepared and ready for that. Since we experienced the most recent pandemic, we were taken aback with that. But we will try to be more prepared for the next one. But even we may say we are more prepared now than we were before. But I still say, despite we are more prepared, more equipped, more well trained for the next pandemic, no matter how much training you put yourself and your other medical trained personnel all over the world, it may not be not even enough. So no matter how much you train yourself for the next several years to be prepared for the next pandemic, so no matter how many personnel of medical trained all over the world is trained for the next pandemic to happen, that won't be enough. It won't be enough. Because even if we are saying that we are now prepared for the next pandemic, if we won't be prepared. Because COVID happened out of the blue. It just happened. And that is the thing. We don't know when the next pandemic will happen. It can happen in the next 10, 20 years, or perhaps even the next year. 2026 may even be the start of a new global pandemic. That is just another thing I really don't want to happen. Because if it does, psychologists may have to wait another few years in order to get here. I'm like, are you trying to punish me? Oh man, that is just great. Yes, great. But yeah, I mean, pandemic when COVID happened. US went in complete lockdown. Italy, complete lockdown. Sweden, not lockdown, not even once. Oh, I mean, the country may have only prevent boats and air traffic from being shut down to not be traveling, but the country itself was not much in any lockdown within the country. We were pretty much permitted to go anywhere we wanted, in the public, to school, to the stores, anywhere. We weren't even obligated to even wear face masks. Not even once. I mean, I did see this one video from YouTube, um, and this was also around the during the COVID. Two young African American guys, like the teenagers or early 20s, they went to a store. They were wearing a face mask, and there was a security guard following after them, telling them to leave. Why? Because there was a sign on the front door, or the front entrance, saying only allowed people, you need to wear a face mask. They were wearing a face mask because there was then the pandemic. But the problem is there were like 10 other people inside, well, at least a number of other people inside the store, white people. And none of those didn't even wear a face mask. And the security guard didn't even approach neither of those people just because they were white. And some many people thinking those two young African Americans who were wearing a face mask in the store, and since you are doing this was during COVID, that they were most that in order to enter the building, you needed to be wearing a face mask. They did, and the security guard followed them around just because of something that they hadn't even done. In fact, the word is the sign of the store saying that in order to enter the building, you need to wear a face mask. They did follow that rule, but the other people in the store didn't even do that. Why? So why to follow around two young African Americans just because they followed the rules, but they clearly that there were other people in the store who didn't even wear the face mask, didn't even follow that particular rule. And in fact, this was a private owned store, and they had the right to kick out people for not following the rules, even if like this pandemic or something, no matter what it is. If it was or if it was owned by, like, if it was a family owned store, or maybe even if it was a public owned store, or even a private owned building or something, that's the same thing. it's it's unbelievable that these two young men would have been facing this. Sooner, when I was in Sweden, I actually read about this. Two young Chinese students were studying in Stockholm at the time when this happened. This was also during COVID. They were walking around in public, and they were wearing face masks. And like I said, we weren't obligated to do so, but the word voluntarily for anyone who wanted to do that. But these young Chinese students, literally were wearing a face mask because they wanted to protect themselves and also prevent the virus being spread even further. But a group of Swedish people actually walked up to them and ripped off the face mask from their faces. Literally just ripped them off. They followed, they wanted to keep themselves safe, not because of that, but I believe they were targeted because of that, since the virus was released from China. And I mean, the fact is, they may not even be terror. I mean, unless if these people heard they were talking, and if the people could determine that was Chinese or even Japanese, no matter what happens. Because I think many people around Europe or even around the world target Asian people because they're thinking they, no matter what they're, even they were born in their country, they were still bullied that they were spreading the virus. But even though they had been born in the country, even their parents, maybe their grandparents has been born in the country. This happened also in the US, that I've seen this many families were targeted from uh, not bullies, but some mobs that were targeting for because they were Asian people living in US during COVID, believing that no matter what you were, they were because some people can't even tell apart from a Chinese or even Japanese or even Korean people. Some people are saying Chinese, Japanese, and Korean look very the same eyes, same faces. So they're no matter where you're from, they're still the same people. But the fact is that is not the truth at all. Chinese, Japanese, and Korean people look some difference. There are in fact difference in their faces and that. I think it's just absolute wrong to even to judge people based on their faces, just saying they're all the same from the same background. It's just even the language may sound similar, but it is completely different languages. And I understand that some also that people were terrified when this new pandemic has been happening, but to put the blame on any Asian people they came across. I mean, think about it. An Asian family who lived next door to a white family for years, and suddenly this pandemic happened, and the friendship between this Asian family and the white family may have been deteriorated so bad and it became hostile, or maybe the white family started to target them or suspicious them for spreading that they had a virus and spreading it. I think that is absolute wrong. Targeting the family, suspiciously blaming them for doing something they had even nothing to do. Because not only the Asian people could spread the virus, anyone could. Even the white people, African Americans spread the virus, and even Hispanic people population could spread the virus. So I understand that many Asians around the world, including in the US, that they were targets of many people for blaming them for spreading the COVID. But that is absolutely wrong to do. Put the blame on one group of people from one nationality, even despite that they have been living in your country for years, even their parents and even grandparents has been living in the same country and has never even been outside the US at all. That happened. And every single time when there's some form of pandemic or even some form of any uh, disaster, anyone who put the blame immediately. If there has been like a series of cases of rapes in a big city, some people were saying that was an African American man who did it. Then they will say match, say the height, the eye, how the hairstyle and such. Every single one would almost be fit that description could also be a potential target for harassment and racism. I don't see what is issue to some people to put blame on something that they are not even involved in. So Asian people that time on the COVID, no matter what intention, no matter if they were there from China, Japan, Korea, or in Taiwan, or any country in Asia, would have been put to blame for that. I think it was one of the worst mistakes anyone could do. Put the blame on a group of people who may have never even done anything. I mean, if I had a neighbor who was from Asia and some of the people in the area mistreat them because they were believing they were the ones spreading the virus. But I would know for sure they are not doing that. Like, they're like, first of all, they never had left the country, not even once. I trust them. I had known them for years. So why would they would suddenly being put to blame? I was like telling them to those other neighbors, like, hey, they cannot. Have you thought of maybe just not they are the ones who could be spread the virus? You could be spread the virus yourself without even know it. Because the virus, the COVID virus, some of the symptoms were just that could be could it be mistaken as a cold or even the flu. So put the blame on one group of people just because of the COVID happened. That was one of the worst mistakes anyone can do. So if I had an Asian family as a neighbors and they were put to blame for spreading virus in the community, I would defend them because I would know them. I don't judge people for because of believing. I don't believe that just Asians, because of the virus came from China. I don't put even put the blame on other people from Asian descent for any of that. Because even white people could spread the virus, even not being aware of it. I'm just saying it's one of the things I just think they shouldn't even do.
Mm,
So I mean, but I just say this. But the next pandemic happens, this might even happen again and again and again. Be sure of that. No matter what happens, some people may be put to blame for this. And I just say, people, don't judge, don't blame anyone from one specific descent of a group of people who may actually be from that country but never been the one who caused the virus to spread. So I just say this: people who blamed the Asian population around the world during the pandemic once responsible for spreading it. What do you want? Yeah, my cat is a little,
crabby.
not crabby, more like just talkative. She is, yeah, my cat is not much a lap cat. If you try to pick her up, she would immediately trash around her arm, not arm, but her paws, and her claws is pretty sharp. I mean, I know that because she had clawed up my both my arm, my hands, plenty already. I can't even pick her up and cut her claws.
Lovely.
Yeah, I can't even pick her up. And even if my dad would come over to help me do that, she will run away, hide under the bed or under the couch or somewhere. Yeah, that's nearly impossible. Because I told my parents a few times that I don't want to chase her around an apartment to just grab her to cut her claws or something. It's not what I want to do because it will only put stress on her. But not only that, all the progress that I had made so far to make her to accept me may be a huge setback. And if she were in the bathroom, maybe. I mean, I told my dad or and my mom at some point that if I had to take her to the veterinarian to have her sedated so they can cut the claws once a month, that is like they told me they cost from between uh, 500 600 per month. That is so. Let's say 500 times 12. That's 6,000. If it's 600 times 12, that's 7,200. And I can't afford that. And I mean, I can't even cut my own cat's claws. I had never done that before to any of my family cats before. So and in fact, if I need, okay, if I would have to be getting a summon from the veterinarian for take my cat for some sort of checkup and try to put her in the cat carrier, good luck. So, like I said, you can't even pick her up before her paws been thrashing around and such. Oh, that would have been a painful. My unless you put the cat carrier in the bathroom, and she usually follows after me in the bathroom, and if I close the door and had the cat carrier half open and managed to hold her and put her in and close it, even though her claws is so sharp and that my arms might even be completely bloody afterwards. I had never even experienced that. My previous cat, which unfortunately I had to give away, um, he uh, 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 he actually went into that cat carrier without a problem. He actually I had it by the front door. He went in the
Uh,
kitchen.
dude.
I know. Let's see. Uh, should I put it in comment? What do you mean?
Mm, I mean, that would be up to you, since I'm not the one
Yeah,
hosting this.
yeah, I can do that. That's a link to the stream. So yeah, but remember, don't be respectful. Don't say anything that's would considered as an offensive or anything, and don't
No,
play
you
any
mean don't
music
be
or background.
disrespectful.
Yeah, and don't play the music or background. But like I said, if I had my cat, my previous cat, he literally walked in the cat carrier without needed to put him in there. He just walked in, lay down, and eat something. That's it. Or he ate first, then he went in the cat carrier. But my current cat, yeah, that might be a more tricky. I mean, I can't even pick her up before without her paws being thrashing around. Her claws is so sharp. I mean, I already experienced that with my both my hands and fingers. Lovely. She hasn't even done it to my face or my legs or anything so far, but she literally follows me everywhere I go, if we're to the bathroom, the kitchen, or even to my bed. I mean, she's lovely, even though she has her problems. Even her can be a bit annoying from time to time, especially sometimes when I go to bed. If I just lay down, she's then suddenly get this urge to take off, just like jump over me, over in the kitchen, start eating, and go back to the bed, sitting by next to the bed, start meowing and ask for to get up. I mean, I can't do like, oh yeah, I would like, I could just bend over, grab her, and put up. No, if I see, even if I put even reach her with both my arms, she would move. She would back away. So there's like no puzzle for that. So yeah, it's just I just hope that I mean I even told my parents that even if I can't get my cat to be being pretty much being picked up or being put in my lap or something just like that, I I would be fine without it though. As long as I mean I can be sitting on the couch, she can be laying down next to me, and I have no problem. She has no problem to be petted or anything, but as long as she at least that friendly, that I must accept it. As long as she doesn't like to be picked up, I'm not seeing no problem with that. So yeah, I mean I don't see any problem in having a cat. I really want to have a cat as a pet since a dog. Well, by a Swedish law, you need to then pick them up for a walk every 4 to 6 hours and half an hour each time, no matter what type of dog, if it's a small or even large dog, no matter what it is. And I remember after my parents got their current dog, even when both of them left the house, even for just for a moment, he would start barking. What do you want? You have food.
Meow.
Yeah, she's always purring a lot. She can't even walking around purring without even be as petting or anything. Uh, but this thing, though, having a cat is probably one of the best pets I can ever ask for. I mean, they can live for many years. Dogs can live for many years. I did want to have some form of pet, but without knowing what type of to have or even get, yeah, that was a problem though. I mean, I didn't want to have a pet rat since they live for about 2 to 3 years. Is most birds. I mean, I had a few pet rats over the years. I have, even when I was a kid, and my family had also over the years guinea pigs, rabbits, uh, birds, fishes, and that's most of the animals we had. I didn't want to have a bird since that would be usually require like two of them to maintain company, and they can also be loud. Depends what type of bird it is. If it's a parrot or a small bird, and fishes in an aquarium, you need to make it clean, and it's pretty heavy if it is filled with water, and the process is yeah. And if you have pet turtles, that is what I've been told that you need to clean it every single day without being really getting much risk from salmonella, which is a dangerous disease you can get for. So yeah, I prefer not want to do that as much. I did know someone who actually had uh, turtles as much as a pet, but I don't see a problem with that though. Unlike those giant tortoise that can live for nearly 200 years, that's impressive. Yeah, so I think if you want to have a pet that you can actually spend time with. In fact, there were this once my parents actually had an acquaintance or a friend of theirs for many years. They used to have this leguana, and I actually met it. And I don't think leguana actually sounds cool. They only eat vegetables and fruits and such, but they need an terrarium or this warm place to stay in, and that is kind of also be expensive. I just don't know how much the. In fact, I don't even know how much a leguana even costs. I didn't even looked it up though, but they're pretty cool. But I mean, it's not like you can take your leguana to bed or couch to cuddle with. It's yeah, I don't think so. I mean, my mom when she was in I think like third or fourth grade, her math teacher actually told me her math teacher literally had two caimans, which is like a small crocodile species, in her bathroom. They slept in the bathtub. I was like, what? And apparently, you can actually have a small, like a caiman as a pet in Sweden, but it's requires special permission for a permit for that. I mean, it's like a small crocodile, and yeah, I mean, snakes in another thing. I don't see much a problem with that. But if you're like a corn snake, those are different colors. They are harmless. They don't even need a need for special permission. But if you have those like a python or a boa, might need some special permission. After all, they're kangaroos quite big, and they squeeze their prey to death. So if you're unlucky, if you had a python and you have to go to lock its place where they sleep and it crawls out and they strangle you to death, that would have been one of the worst mistakes. In fact, I heard this one story. This owner actually had a python or a boa. It was either those two, since both do the same thing. Um, it had it sleeping in his bed, but suddenly one day it didn't eat anything. It somehow starved itself to death, and the owner could not even tell exactly why, though. Couldn't even determine exactly what caused of it. So he took the snake to the veterinarian, and in fact, the veterinarian couldn't even determine the cause of why suddenly the snake were starved, stopped eating. But another veterinarian that was present actually determined and told the owner immediately get away from the snake. Turns out that the snake, every time the snake was sleeping next to the owner in his bed, it was stretching out itself to measure and starving itself so it will eat this owner. But the owner said it is his friend. But to the snake, the owner is always could be always be a potential meal. And there was actually even this story that was only from earlier this year. This woman from India, she went in the jungle. She was gonna pick some wild berries or wild fruit or something, and her husband didn't notice that she hasn't even returned yet after several hours. So he and a number of villagers left their town, their small village, and went in the jungle looking for her. But they found no trace of her nowhere else. So until they found this, I don't know if there was a if it was even an anaconda or something, but it was a pretty big snake and has a big bump on its stomach. And it turned out it the snake has eating her, and she was about 5 feet tall. And it's not unlike any snake would even try to kill a human or like that. It's not like, I mean, I even heard one other story of a python or a boa. It literally it crawled away from a family's home, but it didn't hurt anyone. But instead, on its tail, it had a crocket, like one of those Crocs, flip flop shoes on its tail. I was like, what? Hey, a snake that needs a flip flop for what? That is kind of
Yeah, some snakes they do like to show some kindness, but I can remember there was one where a woman was showing off a yellow python who was sitting on her shoulders, and this I think a little daughter girl, or I think it was her daughter. She she reached out to like touch the snake on the head, and the snake bit that little girl on her fingers.
ooh, wow. That must be hurtful. I
Yeah,
bet. I mean,
and there was
big.
even one time where a man was showing off a cobra, and he was putting the snake back in. I think as he put the snake, as he released the snake, moving it back so it wouldn't bite him. The snake leaned back as he went to grab the lid and put it down. The snake managed to, as fast as it was, this snake stuck its head back out, and bit him on the belly.
Oh, and if you have seen in India those people that using a flute to have a cobra dancing, they can't even hear the music at all. They only feeling the vibration in the ground to make them move. Oh, I saw this. Even though this was actually only a cartoon, there was this tourist who was in India, and he saw this Indian man playing a flute and had a cobra dancing. And suddenly, the man stopped playing because he realized something had happened. Turned out that the tourist Thai had started also to move like if it was dancing, and it strangled the man by the tourist. But I mean, the Thai was lifting and hanging mid-air, and the man was strangled by his own tie because the man was playing a flute. This, that was even that was like a cartoon, but even though the Indian man was like, oh, even it's not realistic, that's not even possible to be honest though, but still. But can you even imagine otherwise? To see or even come across a snake that's like 45 to almost 50 feet long, what would you do if you saw that type of big snake?
Um, I would say hi, bye, and run like hell.
Hmm. That is a good answer because even if the snake is non-poisonous or it's non-venomous, like even that, like the spit cobra or even the what else, even just tease and bite, even if it's like a python that can strangle you, it would still be dangerous. In fact, Tainoboa was the biggest snake ever to be recorded in history that we know of, 42 feet long. And it was big enough to even to swallow a crocodile, even a human at home. And it did actually live in South America millions of years ago. It's no longer alive. It's had pretty much been extinct. But can you imagine to come across that big snake in the jungle? Like, what? You're thinking, is this a new species or a prehistoric snake that lived as survived undiscovered for so long? But even if you do, you may thinking, can't be real. And you may recording it from a distance or even take photos and then go back into civilization to talk about it and even provide the proof of this snake. But some people may thinking, some expert thinking, those photos, that recording is complete a hoax. I mean, I wouldn't blame them for that since the snake, the Tainoboa, which is the largest snake ever to be found, or at least the remains of it, 42 feet long. So even that snake has been extinct for millions of years, and suddenly come across it again, even after such a long time. No, that would have been a huge, like a one of the biggest discovery of the century. I like, it's like say that the people assume that even believes that the megalodon is still much alive, but that shark species had been extinct for 2.6 million years. And someone like, hey, what we if we could somehow find the remains and clone it and bring it back? Now that is not possible. It's not possible to clone a megalodon even if we do manage to find remains. But the fact of as a megalodon, 99.9% of its body was just only like flesh. It didn't even have any actual skeleton. Most of its body's structures, like they're supposed to be like a skeleton, were only like hard muscles or something. The same thing as that form your nose. The teeth were the only thing that was bone, and that was the only campaign. You can actually find megalodon teeth in America if you're lucky. So bringing back the megalodon, it's not really possible at all. I mean, unless they use a great white shark to change its DNA, similar to the way that they made for the three direwolves they brought back earlier this year, but without having the actual blueprint of the megalodon's DNA, it's not really possible to do so because those megalodon's teeth doesn't even have any much of DNA in them. So it's not like realistically possible to bring back a megalodon at all. Same thing for dinosaurs. Because even if like those in Jurassic Park with those amber, we had mosquito extract DNA. Sure, if you manage to find a mosquito with blood in it, It's not possible to bring that back because that DNA is so bad degraded because even after a few million years, the DNA from a dinosaur or even any life form from the prehistory or prehistoric times is so bad degraded. You can't even clone them. Because in the Jurassic Park, they added frog DNA or amphibian DNA among the fragment of the dino DNA. But that is just only that, science fiction. You can't even do that in realistically. Because even if you do manage to find somehow dino DNA in amber extracted from mosquitoes, that DNA might be too small fragments, not even, you would even need hundreds, perhaps billions of DNA pairs even to create a single fragment or even so much stable, suitable DNA for the cloning it. It's not possible. The same thing is for animals have died out, say 10 to 20,000 years ago, like the mammoths. Despite they had more reason when extinct more than compared to the dinosaurs. Even the most like mammoths who couldn't be found in Siberia or even Alaska, who is still been in a permafrost for many thousands of years. You may be thinking the cold will preserve the body, sure, but the DNA itself will also be degraded even after just 10, 20,000 years or even 50,000 years in the ice. Even if you manage to find, say, an Ice Age man from the Ice Age, and you may be thinking you can extract his DNA to clone him. While cloning a human may actually be a lot difficult, and then, but even if you manage to find suitable DNA from a frozen ice age man, do you think you can? Even you have the resources, the technology, the knowledge how to use, how to create an extinct man from the dead, or like a clone of him. Well, if you have all that combined, and you would even be more likely be possibility to create a clone of of dead Ice Age or Stone Age man. But the fact is, if you do have all that required technology, knowledge, and experience, you can't do it. Why? Simple. Human cloning is banned in most of the majority of the countries. Like more than 100 countries have banned human cloning, including the US and Sweden. But cloning a DNA, or say, if someone like cloning a full grown a person had been extinct for dead for years, for centuries, perhaps thousands of years, even if you manage to find a Stone Age man or a woman in frozen ice, you can't clone a person. If you have all the requirements, knowledge of life, you can't even do it because it's illegal in the whole world. No countries will even allow such operation unless you do that off the books, like a top secret organization, or do it in on your own. So that's just crazy, and it's also fair to understand it because that would be one step closer to play God. But if you take your organs, like say if you need a kidney, take one, cloning it, and you may be thinking having a clone exact copy of your own kidney would be more suitable to be using rather from those being transplanted or from another family member or even a stranger. But the fact that is also it's not much of very much. It's a very suitable idea. Like if you need a clone, a new transplant, and have the technology to clone your own that particular organ that you need, simply by cloning it will take maybe a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. That depends which organ it is. But it never happened. It's still also many countries that won't even allow it. Certain countries had this strict ethical question if this even ethical or even should be permitted. But if it could have been allowed worldwide, it will actually help with the shortage of transplants. Because people can be on the waiting list for months, weeks, and even years, but never being received a transplant. That's it's very harsh life. And I can't even imagine for anyone who has been sitting on waiting for a new organ for months, even years, but never or even never even get it. And if there is a match, but the person had died way before, maybe a couple of days or maybe a week before they receive a transplant, or what if the person died the day before, after knowing, oh yeah, but dies during the night before they could even receive the organ. That's not the small part of it. There isn't even a technology that's idea of 3D printing organs. I mean, it's something like sounds really futuristic, but it's maybe it might even be closer than you think it is, because some universities in Finland actually used this 3D printed meat. They printed from a 3D printer actual burgers, patties, and they had a number of people test to eat them. But you may be thinking, wait a minute, how do you print 3D like burger patties from a 3D printer machine? Because they're like actual meat, like they're organic. Well, it turned out to use proteins and enzymes in order to do so. And this group of people, um, when they tested, when they tried 3D printed hamburger patties and even had tested a regular burger patties just to see if there was any difference in the taste and the texture, but they could even tell apart from which one was even regular one or even printed one. But they said they didn't even, they didn't taste any difference. The only side problem that if you have printed meat is that it lasts half the time what regular meat would do, and I think that is pretty amazing though. But in fact, 3D printing is also being used on the space station, which is seriously needed, because if they need some spare parts and that they have to send out to space an unmanned spacecraft, it can take months or it can take days or perhaps even a few weeks even to do so. Because it had been happening that if they require certain supplies, they had to cancel the launch due to the fact that the weather or something, or to put some discovery of a problem in the rocket or something. And that is another something that they need. So having a machine on the station that can print some of the spare parts is a very huge saver on that. I mean, imagine there are people on the station, and suddenly there's a problem in the power system that they need a spare part, but they don't even have any. And they're asking if NASA can send, or they are planning to send, preparing a rocket to be launched within the next few days, or within a day or so. So if they and they were been told that the launch may have to be rescheduled to maybe for another day because of the weather, and they've been told, and the station's personnel, they say, we can't wait no longer more than another day or two because we need those spare parts. If we don't have the power back, if we lose power, we don't have life support and we won't even survive up here. So having a machine on board a station that can literally create 3D printed spare parts is very much needed, because being dependent on transport from Earth, and like I said, when they have to reschedule where the launches can be, sometimes can be in a few days, maybe even a week. After if there's a crucial system like the life support or even a power system, that would be dangerous. Absolutely dangerous. So I think having a 3D printed machine on the space station that can make spare parts is very necessary to have. Because if they don't have the spare parts for if there's a power system or anything, yeah, they will be dead if they don't get the spare parts. So yeah, and I might end the stream here soon. It's past 2 hours. You know, you're supposed to be for half an hour. So I didn't expect Game Guy to show up since he was so when he was going with his family to his grandmother. Koval was doing something else, and yeah, so well, it's was certainly a good time though. Just this knucklehead showed up. Hey, at least one of my friends showed up at least. Oh man. And yes, I am finally in a good terms with Koval again though. I just hope that he doesn't repeat the same bad idiotic. If it does, it might actually be a permanent next time. Just break that up. So yeah, I did the stream today since I know the fact you guys are gonna be busy tomorrow with family stuff, and
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean, even if I did a stream, and even if Game Guy, you, and perhaps Hayden could even join in, even for only for maybe 5 minutes or even 10 minutes, that would still wouldn't be enough. Even if you can even stay for long, even if you just popped in, say hello, hello, but hi, happy new, Merry Christmas, and just talk for a little bit and then leaving. That would also been fine. But that also depend if what your mom, your uncle are planning for Christmas. Since I have already celebrated Christmas though, we celebrate on the 24th, not the 25th, which uh yeah, but I will say I did get a lot of stuff. Some uh some clothes, some candy, some things from fine artists, and my cat even gets some toys and such. That's pretty good. So yeah, it's this year's Christmas has been fun, even though lack of snow around outside, which is a huge letdown. Oh bother. Anyways, I am not. I mean, you have to agree. Even if it's only a few inches of snow on the ground, makes the entire Christmas spirit. Because that it was even seeing green grass on the front yard, the backyard, to the middle of the Christmas, even if it's during the day, and like even if your neighbors have some decorations like a reindeer or even a Santa Claus, something like that, and you have something in your family has something similar to that, and suddenly, oh, man, this is a lot not even. I mean, could if it was been a little snow, could have made the whole environment outside more magical, or at least more Christmas spirit. But green grass, oh, it's not even the same spirit. I mean, the Christmas when it comes to snow, which is the one thing that makes the entire season, one that particular day, more spirit on the Christmas. Without that, it doesn't seem to feel the same thing. Maybe even if only for New Year's Eve, but a little bit of snow and that you can watch the fireworks and that. And honestly, I have no idea how my cats react to fireworks. I have no idea. My brother's cat, so is the older one, at least one of them, doesn't even react much to the fireworks at all. But mine, I have no idea. I have no idea. And even if we would have reached out to the previous owners of hers, maybe then they could probably tell us if they had any information or didn't know anything about it. But yeah, but I just hope that she doesn't freak out, panic. I mean, considering that their hearing is way much better than ours, which I don't blame her for panicking. I know the fact my parents' dog, he doesn't like it because they have also in Sweden we had this siren system, like an air warning system. They test I think 2 3 times a year, and the siren sound is pretty loud. And due to the fact that dogs' hearing is so much better than our own, it's it's more like say maybe it's like say if you have those megaphones and having one next to your ear and speaking at loud tone, that will be having your almost like your ears ringing. Could almost like might even be like that. It just I can't even imagine what they're going through though. But usually fireworks in Sweden don't even use that last that particular long though. Maybe a couple of minutes at most, maybe 5 10 minutes. But they usually people start firing fireworks even during the day, like middle of the daytime, and sometimes even before then. Well, that depends, of course, but yeah, my family hadn't even fired any fireworks in years. They literally stopped doing that due to the fact of it wasteful of money for just only a few fireworks that we can manage to buy, and also it's not really good for environment and such. So there were been talks to be completely banning in all fireworks in Sweden to replacing it with lasers. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if every single fireworks shows in America would be banned, being replaced with lasers. Even not only for New Year's, but also for Fourth of July. And what if they also decide to change that Fourth of July uh, jet plane performance? Those what were they called again? Uh,
Mm,
you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like those jet planes that form their flights over 4th of July. You know what I mean?
the Thunderbirds.
Yeah. So if they like say if the America would decide to do ban fireworks for New Year's, 4th of July, and also decide to completely remove that show, the planes in it, have it entirely removed permanently, and have something else. Maybe having something else, maybe drones flying with making that type of pattern instead. Because they were to last for because of the release of the gas and such. Though you should know that 4th of July next year for you guys might actually be quite epic. You know why?
Donald Trump's retiring.
Good one. That was a good one. Um, well, that is. Ah man, that
Well,
was a good
at
one.
least he should retire from being an asshole.
That is even possible. That's why even that's
That's a
even.
blue moon wish. Other than Kovo stop, other than asking our friend Kovo to stop looking at porn of Skulu.
No, that's more like to be seeing the super blue moon. But no, the reason to why next year's for July for you guys might actually be so epic is because to next year is exactly 250 years in the foundation of the Americas as an independent country. Because it's 1776 and 250 years, which means 2026. And I think Trump may actually have something special planned for this. But exactly what it is, I don't know. That's up to next year to see what happens. I mean, they were similar to same events for 2 years ago for Sweden when we celebrated our 500 years anniversary as an independent country. Since a previous king, another one of the first kings back then, who was crowned as a king 1523, he that was when we decided to be as independent, and that was also then when we decided to celebrate that on that particular year. And well, it makes sense if you have one particular date when your country was established as an independent. It and you celebrate when you say you've reached 30 or past even 50 years, even 100 years as independent. And we're always being celebrated with this huge bang, like huge celebrations. Like, I mean, I would be surprised by next year in the US that every bakery in the US will have one
Oh my lord,
special
game guy.
a special cake or something that might just to be celebrated. What do you say?
You might want to look in DM.
The only I can see that he sent was around an hour ago. Did they actually do it? And I don't see anything else. The only one I can see is Kubo's what he said. Oh, you mean that one? Him and Kubo and Scootaloo.
Yeah, that's what game
Oh,
guy said about it.
oh, heck, Kubo, get a room.
No. I suggested him doing it because he was
Oh,
showing more pictures of him fighting nightmares and everything. And I'm like, why can't you just make some holly jolly Christmas pictures of you in school, Christmas kissing in front of a Christmas tree with presents, and or maybe you and her under the mistletoe.
hmm, true. Anyways, I will end the stream here, and so everyone, it has been fun. So as usual, next stream might be next Friday, I guess, or this Friday, which is on the 26th. And for New Year's, um, I might. I haven't decided if I will do a stream on the 30th or on the actual New Year's Eve, since I will be at my parents' place for New Year's, and my dad will drop me off around, I guess, maybe past midnight, maybe around, maybe close to 1 in the morning, something. I can't spend the night there since I have a cat to look after, and yeah, so if I do that on the 30th, which has been done before, and even if I do on the New Year's Eve, I'm not sure if you guys are even possibly able to join in that particular stream though, due to the fact of it's New Year's, and even though even though there are like hours between us, like 6 to 7 hours, give or take. So for me, it would be midnight or it's past midnight. For you guys, this might be not if that might be close to the afternoon, so or late evening or something. So I'm not sure, even though if I do a stream on the actual New Year's Eve this year, I don't know if you guys might even be able to join in for the stream though, so I might do it on the 30th, considering an early New Year's stream, which I had done before, and I mean I sometimes do that if it's happened to be on an actual day, and also depending on if I will be home at the time. If I if my parents was no longer alive or even around anymore, and if I still live even if my own, I will probably have done the streams such on those days. And but I'm just saying as a, like a as a reference. It's just I don't know if you guys are even possible to be tuned in for the New Year's Eve stream or the day before. Five Goddess might not even be able to join in on the actual
Hmm.
New Year's Eve since she has actually been mostly been watching the countdown on the TV and such. So I might ask her if she might actually join in on the 30th if she's possible can. And oh yeah, let's if she can, let's hope she won't have the same issue like last time, but yesterday when she joined in. Oh brother, blackout. That was like the first. Okay, like at least one thing. She was the one who was kicked out more than game guy. He was kicked out once, but she was kicked out like more almost 10 times.
Maybe game guy pulled a quarter out of his ass and say, "This is I'm going to be kicked out once, and I'm going to be lucky."
Mm-hmm. Might sounds about right. But if I would stream on New Year's Eve or let's say before then, I will then by then ask you guys maybe the day before on the 29th if you guys are able to either join in on the 30th or the 31st if you have something to do, plan with families and such. I just be prepared in advance just in case if I did that stream and I put it on Discord and you guys say I can't, I'm actually out with my family, I'm actually at the restaurant or something else, and I was like face palm myself and like, oh man, I was looking forward to that stream, kind of way, you know. And even Five God's like, yeah, sorry, I can't join in either. I'm like, why even bother? Oh man, that would have been yeah, but you know what I mean though. But I will ask you on the 29th just in case though if you guys are if you make it thinking, oh yeah, I can probably join the 30th, and then on the day came and
Mm.
and I will ask you guys, are you prepared? And you say game guys like, yes, sorry, I can't. I'm actually not even home. My mom wanted us to do something for the year the day before, or if using I can't, I had to do some chores and I am actually at the laundromat or whatever you do, whatnot. And okay, if we would do it on the 30th, I would have hoped and even wished that some of our friends might could even be joining in, like Lord, the twins.
Oh, I so
But
want Lord to come back. We missed the good Lord.
go Lord in heaven, our friendly Lord, say it against the snake Lord.
Well, if he does show up, you better bring the apple cider.
I not apple cider, but I do have um blueberry flavored mulled wine, and it's not actual wine. It's a Swedish traditional drink for Christmas season. So yeah, and it's non-alcoholic.
Ha ha
You
ha
say
ha.
what?
Nothing.
Jackass.
Ugh.
Yeah, so I will end the
Mm.
stream here. So well, everyone, but it has short been a lot of fun today, even if it just me and Malachi, aka Jackass.
Hmm. And still proud of it.
So yeah.
Thank you,
Anyway, see
Cody.
ya. Mm-hmm. And so until next time, we'll be on Friday. I hope. It depends if I, you know, feel for it. If I have something happens. So yeah. So until then, people, this is Switch Double signing off. Bye.
Bye.
And Happy New Year's and Merry Christmas.